We are here in Bastar in Chhattisgarh, where there has been a sharp spike in the state government's attempts to crack down on the long-running Naxal insurgency. But one of the collateral damage of that renewed attempt, what is being called here as Mission 2016, has been a crackdown on all those who are attempting to report on the conduct of the police here, be they journalists, be they activists, be they scholars. This is now something which everyone we've spoken here say is unprecedented. They've never seen it this bad, with the arrests of journalists, with the eviction of activists, and the hounding out of anybody who comes in the way of the official narrative. Now, it's no one's case, certainly not mine, that journalists are above the law. But what is worrying, as we shall just see, is that they're being targeted on the flimsiest of charges. In Chhattisgarh, they're calling it Vision 2016, the final push to eliminate the Naxal insurgency in the course of this year. But collateral damage appears to be those witnessing the war. 4 journalists just arrested in the past 6 months. In each case, those who are questioning the police are given a warning and then arrested on very, very flimsy charges. The latest arrests, Prabhat Singh, a stringer with Patrika, and Deepak Jaiswal, a stringer for Dainik Jainandini, slapped with a case a year old, accused of illegally filming in a school and shooting pictures of students. The reality, they'd gone to report on cheating in a school exam that made a front page story. Angry school officials had registered a case against them. The case now revived even though the government had acted against school officials.
उसमें कार्रवाई तहसीलदार ने कार्रवाई किया था, 2 दिन उसकी जांच हुई, उसके पश्चात जो है उसमें एक टीचर को निलंबित भी किया गया.
Deepak claimed the police had tried to extort money from him.
केस लगाया गया है. क्या बताओ 10,000 रुपए देने की डिमांड में 10,000 नहीं दिया गया, इसलिए केस लगाया.
The police claim Deepak is not a journalist, but this is a letter issued by his newspaper to show he's been working for them since last year.
तो 2.5 साल से लगभग पत्रकारी कर रहा है. बहुत सारे यहाँ प्रमाण भी मिल जाएं, बहुत सारे उसने कई लेख भी छापे हैं.
Prabhat faces 3 other cases, 2 of which accuse him of illegally taking money for an Aadhaar center. Except the Aadhaar centers are not in his name.
पहला तो बारसूर में जो आधार कार्ड का चॉइस सेंटर है वो उनके नाम पे है ही नहीं. गीदम में तो उनके भाई या उनके किसी लोगों का कोई इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं था. वो हैदराबाद से ऑपरेटर, आंध्र प्रदेश और तेलंगाना के ऑपरेटर थे जिनको पुलिस ने पहले अरेस्ट भी किया है. उनका चालान अभियोग पत्र भी पेश कर दिया गया.
उस वक्त प्रभात का नाम नहीं था.
उस FIR में प्रारंभिक स्टेज में प्रभात का नाम ही नहीं है.
The most serious charge, that he made sexually explicit comments on a WhatsApp group, a non-bailable offence that carries a 5-year penalty under the IT Act. The reality is very different. The WhatsApp group is made up of pro-police journalists and activists who attack other media who are critical of the police, calling them anti-nationals. Prabhat, it appears, was stung by such a comment and described such journalists as sitting in the lap of the powerful local IG of police, SRP Kalluri. The word for lap in Hindi seems to have been translated by WhatsApp's application into an obscene Hindi word.
भैया कुछ ही दिन पहले ही जुड़ा था तो आगे वाले कमेंट किए तो उसी का जवाब दिया भैया. तो वही कुछ हिंदी फॉन्ट जो ट्रांसलेटर है उसके मिस्टेक के कारण तो वर्ड भी इधर उधर छपता है, उसी कारण.
वो क्या कहना चाह रहे थे, मतलब जो उन्होंने शब्द यूज किया वो क्या था?
वही गोद में बैठे हैं, यही शब्द था.
मामा की गोद में बैठे, वो ये कहना चाह रहे थे. The real reason, say local journalists, is to target those who question IG Kalluri and his controversial methods.
सारे पत्रकारों के सामने इसमें 22 मई को यही दंतेवाड़ा में जब प्रेस वार्ता हुआ था तो उन्होंने खुलकर धमकी दिया था प्रभात को कि तुम्हारी कुंडली मेरे पास है और किसी भी कुंडली मेरे पास है और कभी भी उसको बांचा जा सकता है. तो तुम बाकी पत्रकार जैसे कर रहे हैं वैसे क्यों नहीं करते, तुम अलग से क्यों चल रहे हो?
आप थे उस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस, आपने सुना?
जी.
आपके बारे में क्या कहा गया?
मेरे बारे में कहा गया कि ये नक्सलियों का साथी है, नक्सलियों का नेता है, नक्सली प्रभावित आंदोलन इसने किया है.
At least 2 other journalists, Somaru Nag and Santosh Yadav, have been in jail for the past 8 months accused of Naxal links. In the case of Somaru, the case might be on the verge of collapse as the main witness against him is willing to testify that he was pressured by the police. But even if Somaru does manage to come out of the legal maze, it's unclear whether he will ever pick up the pen again. With camera person Xavier Thomas and Sonal Matharu, Srinivasan Jain in Bastar for NDTV. So Chhattisgarh is worrying an unprecedented war on witnesses. I am joined by Shaina NC, national spokesperson of the BJP. Also joining me is Siddharth Vardarajan, senior editor and founder of The Wire. Thank you both so much for joining us. Shaina NC, this is something that, as I just said, across this entire region, it's a very difficult and sensitive region anyway for journalists to report on. You see a very scarce number of journalists who are actually brave enough to report on both sides, Maoists and the police. But now you actually have the Chhattisgarh government singling out journalists who they believe are politically uncomfortable, who are raising inconvenient questions and targeting them, as we just saw, on very flimsy charges. Isn't this a very worrying step that your state government is taking here, Shaina NC?
I think there are two different issues which we need to segregate first. First, are we for reporting, free reporting, fair reporting? Absolutely yes, there's no question there. But in an area like Bastar, where there are a lot of complexities when it comes to Naxalites, the Naxalite movement, some of which may be even supported by the locals, or for that matter even the administration or the police or even the journalists. I think that is an area of contention which is extremely complicated. To suggest that there is an allegation that somebody has not been allowed to cover a story, there could be a counter argument to that as well. I think that, yes, go ahead.
No, but the problem is that it is not just about arrests based on those who have been accused of having proximity to Naxals. These are people who have been picked up on all sorts of charges, like as we just showed a journalist who's been picked up on charges which are 1 year old, about him reporting a story on cheating in school exams. Now the teachers or the officials there file a complaint against him and the fellow journalist.
But that's what you are saying.
That is revived 1 year later to arrest him only because he was raising uncomfortable questions, and this is not what I'm saying. This is what the FIR is saying.
No. This could be your version of the story. There could be a contrarian opinion as well. That's why I said that are we, or is the Chhattisgarh government or our government for free and fair representation of journalists and the media? Clearly yes, but do understand in areas such as Bastar and lots of parts of Chhattisgarh where there are complex Naxalite issues, and when I say Naxalite issues, this is not limited to a particular segment which is only about a journalist versus a Naxalite. It could be a Naxalite in conduit with the journalists, or for that matter even with, as I said, the administration. So we need to understand that rather than forming our own judgment theories, investigations, if an FIR has been registered, will address these issues, and black is black and white is white, and that's the way we'd like to see it.
Siddharth Vardarajan, as I said, we are not here to blanket defend journalists. Journalists are open to being prosecuted by the law just like any other citizens. But as we said, it's the charges against them which appear to be so flimsy that clearly there appears to be some sort of nullified intent. In fact, here in South Bastar, the Journalists Association has taken a decision to boycott all reporting, whether it is on police or Naxals, because they say neither side considers them as journalists.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that while you have national reporters based, a few of them based in Raipur, but Bastar in South Chhattisgarh, which is the epicenter of a civil war, if you will, between the Maoists and the government, you don't have independent eyes and ears, and the government is not interested in there being any independent eyes and ears. I think that's what's most worrying about what we've seen over the last month, beginning with the ouster of Malini Subramaniam from there, the freelance journalist who was writing for Scroll, and now the latest arrests. To dredge up charges from a year or two ago, charges which were never considered serious enough for you to want to move against them at that time. To do so now essentially reflects the attitude of the police, local police and the state administration, that they simply don't want objective, honest reporting on the ground.
Look at it in the reverse. May I just intervene? Please look at it in the reverse.
So these arrests are meant to encourage reporting.
We've got a news update coming in.
and somebody is arrested 1 year down with conclusive evidence, it shows you that we did not choose to misuse power in the past as well. If there are direct links of Maoists to these particular scribes, I think that it's an area of contention, because the journalist is a citizen as well.
Shaina, but the evidence, Shaina, but if I may just say so, the evidence in one of the cases of a journalist who was arrested last year is so weak that the case has already fallen through. He's most likely to be discharged. But I just want to say that we've got a news update coming in here. The Chhattisgarh government has set up a 6-member committee to address the concerns of journalists. It comprises 4 bureaucrats and 2 editors, and they will address any complaints or grievance that a journalist might have, go before them. This has just come in. Now, obviously, any step to address the concerns, the almost crisis-like atmosphere that's prevailing here is important. But will this committee actually address the issues of those who are already behind bars on what they believe are very, very flimsy charges? That's something that's unclear. But this news of this committee has just come in. Shaina NC, and also Siddharth Vardarajan, feel free to respond.
Well, if I can come in, Vasu.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. I think that I think this is a good thing if the Chhattisgarh government has responded to the concerns of journalists. But I want to emphasize that even though we are journalists and we like to talk about the pressure on the media, and there is a sense in which attacks on journalists affect much more than the media. It's an attack on the public's right to know. But I think it's important for your viewers to understand that the pressure on journalists in Chhattisgarh, in Dantewada and Bastar, is part of the offensive by the local police administration against any kind of independent observer being present there. Right? We've seen the ouster of the Jagdalpur legal aid group. We've seen pressure on the academician Bela Bhatia happening in the context of the Chhattisgarh government trying to revive in a fairly open fashion the illegal Salva Judum that the Supreme Court banned 7 years ago. So essentially, by evicting anybody who can be who can testify independently to what is happening, they are creating the atmosphere, creating the grounds for the relaunching of some new variant of Salva Judum, which the Supreme Court declared was illegal 7 years ago. That's what is most sinister about what is happening.
Let's get Shaina. Let's get Shaina in for the last word. Shaina will, because this is not just limited to journalists. We've spoken to activists, we've spoken to lawyers. It's a much wider problem. Will the BJP, will the state government rethink what it's doing here on the ground, particularly using this one Inspector General of Police who everyone is naming, who, by the way, we tried to contact repeatedly, was not interested in speaking to us, nor was any member of the police. Will you rethink this very, very hard line that is being taken against those who are witnessing the ongoing civil war here?
If there is rationale, clearly there will be a rethink. But if there is the interest of the state at large vis-a-vis Maoists and Naxalites who are a threat to society, clearly the administration has the prerogative to be extremely cautious. When I say that scribes and reporters who are choosing to report in Dantewada and Bastar are welcome to do so, but if the reporting is some kind of a threat to the absolute strategy of the government and the police and the intelligence, I think that is also an area of contention. We need to be rational and mature and understand that we are not dealing with some ordinary situation which is black and white. There are lots of shades of grey in the area, and there are lots of areas of concern which need to be addressed, and that can be addressed through these investigative probes and the findings that come into the public domain by the government.
All right, well, thanks very much indeed for that. Shades of grey, we all understand as journalists, but here, as we've pointed out, it appears to be not so much shades of grey, but a very distinct shade, a very distinct line that is being taken against the media and others who are observers in this very sensitive region. But thanks so much, Shaina NC, Siddharth Vardarajan, for joining us. We'll continue to track this big unfolding story.